Hey, overthinkers. It's Sweets and Lisa here.
Hey, everybody.
We're back again, if you can believe it. We showed up
Good.
to overthink with you guys all over again about all the
We
things.
show up for each other, Sweetsa. That's what we
That's
do.
right. What a great, oh, that's nice.
And if people want to listen to us,
That's it. That's
we're
really what
here.
it comes down to. Either way, guys, we're having the conversation. So we're
Yeah.
just happy you're here. How you been, Lise?
I've been good. I'm freezing. It's just I don't know when this one is going to go out to people, but just it's a long, long winter here in the Chicagoland area and other places in the country. And metaphorically, realistically, all of it. We're just in a long winter.
No, my body starts to shut down. I just want to go under the table and suck my thumb. I can't feel like I can do it anymore with like lugging everything and then it being cold. And
Too
if you
much.
drop something, it's just terrible. So I hear you. But the sun is out today. Again, I don't know when we're posting this, but at least we have a little sunshine. So
Sunshine's amazing.
that. Yeah. So what do you got for me?
Okay, so I am going to give you the word. Are you ready
Okay,
for it?
I am.
Okay, the word is genuine.
It's just overused.
Oh, well, I love that response. Tell me more.
You know what? So let me backtrack. I love that word. I want to be more genuine, right, in my day to day, but I do think that sometimes that with authentic, genuine can kind of be overused in places. Like I just want to be my authentic, genuine self, right? And a lot of the times we don't always know what that actually really means, right? So, yeah. But as a word by itself, genuine, yeah. Or like I think I can tell you if I meet someone who's pretty genuine, easy to be around. That's my assumption, right? Like that was someone who's genuine is just really shows up as who they are.
This is why we like each other, because we have similar thoughts about things. So I was thinking about the word, actually, my first word was going to be authentic, and then I went with genuine because I felt like it wasn't as overused, but yeah, we're on the same page here. So
Okay.
I think the thing that I was thinking of was how recently it feels like this is
Hmm.
a characteristic that we're looking for in leaders, right?
Hmm.
Like we keep saying we want leaders who are genuine, leaders who are authentically themselves, et cetera. And, they say what they think and what's on their mind. And it's always been troublesome for me to think about because the answer is yes. Of course, I want somebody to show up as who they are.
Yes.
But if you dig like an inch deeper,
Hmm.
I think that it's at best like a first bar, like a
Yeah.
lower bar, right? Like, I think that we think we want someone to show up as their, so that we can trust that we're not getting manipulated. And I would have some questions about that.
Huh.
Number one is, I think we've talked about before how many people are not very self aware.
Yeah.
And so if you're not self aware,
Hmm.
then can I expect you to be authentic to who you are if you're not even aware of who you are or what you're thinking? So that's one thing.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think that that's part of what we talk about is like sometimes many people just kind of exist without awareness and they're not really thinking about their responses and their thoughts and that you're just kind of, saying and doing
Yes.
things without much thought. So that's one thought I have. And maybe we can stop there before I go further.
Well, I do. I mean, I think like ultimately, in my opinion, you can't, if you are not self-aware, this idea of being genuine or authentic, I think you just don't know yourself to know yourself on whether that's the truth or not. Because when I say like self-awareness, it's like some of the work that somebody maybe has to do to go into a deeper level of thinking about who they are because most of the time at surface level, right, when we just kind of go through life like a feeling of unconscious, we're not really aware of, it's like Johari's window, we're not always aware of like how we show up for ourselves or for others. So I do think, I mean, I am a firm believer that when you take words like authentic or genuine, there's got to be a level of that you have worked on yourself a bit, like before you are showing up there. But I also think, like, if I could take it around the corner, I also think that it's just being overused, like in the sense of like I'm a genuine leader, I'm really authentic, and then it can be weaponized, right? Like I'm being authentic to you, so of course you're gonna want my decisions, right? You're gonna agree with everything I'm saying, and I don't think that that's what it was meant to be used for.
Right, right. So, because that's kind of my second thought was, yes, I want someone to be authentic, but authentically what?
Hmm.
Like, my friend has a good saying when someone, and it's not my friend saying, I'm sure somebody important said this. This is also a theme on the show. I have no idea who said it first, but it's like when someone shows you who they are, believe them. It's like, who am I to say that you're being inauthentic or to judge your, level of genuine, presence when number one, I can never presume to know you. And number two, whatever you're doing is authentically what you're doing.
That's it. Yeah.
So, how could you be anything but authentic? You're doing the things that you think you should do at that time. And so, why look for authenticity as opposed to just looking at someone's behaviors and what they're saying and taking that as their authentic self? I mean, have we been so manipulated so often that we're just looking for manipulation and think that we can judge whether or not someone is manipulating us? Like, I don't know.
And
It's
I
just
think
like a
we
circular thing in my mind now. Like, what are we actually saying when we say we want an authentic leader?
Well, it's kind of like it's the double standard of like when people think like saying affirming affirmations to them will give them good self-esteem. That is not true. It may make you feel good for a second, but that's not where self-esteem is, not the birthplace of it. And so I do think that in that sense of when you're talking about genuine or being authentic, it's the same type of thing. I can say it a whole bunch of times that I'm genuine or authentic, but behaviors speak louder than just words. And so I think when you're seeing someone who's being, naughty or right, something your gut says it doesn't rub you the right way or whatnot, it's to your point. I also have heard that saying like when people show you who they are, believe them, right? And it's true. And I think that a lot of the times we try to convince ourselves of different because at another point in time maybe someone appeared to be more genuine or oh no, I thought they were authentic.
Well, right. I mean, and it also begs the question of like, do we want people to reflect and change over the course of their life? And then does that change lead to this idea that they're inauthentic because they're saying something different now than they used to say? And also, what is authentically valued by one person is authentically despised by somebody else. I might want a leader who is measured in their thoughts or who values reflection and change, where somebody next to me values someone who is very opinionated and strong in their convictions. And both things sound great and are also manifested in very different behaviors and ways of being, and both are authentic, right?
That's very true. I think the piece of it is that you said it perfectly. You have people who want different things from you. And one's vision of what authentic is another person's non-vision of what authentic is. And I think ultimately if you see someone who's like vacillating across I'm sorry, I lost it. Go ahead. I'm gonna edit this out anyway.
No,
Yeah.
okay. I appreciate what you said because I think that's it. And I think as leaders, you try, or
Mhm.
we try, I'll speak for myself. I try to be what I think people need me to be in that moment. But obviously, the tug inside myself is like, am I being genuine? When, yes, I'm being genuinely somebody who wants to do what people need from
Mhm.
me. That's who I am as a leader. And so it looks different, maybe based on who I'm dealing with and what their needs are at the time, but it doesn't mean I'm a different person,
But
right?
genuine doesn't mean I think people are mistaking it like when you see like the Maya Angelos of the world or like someone who's very authentic being genuine doesn't mean that like sometimes I think it gets associated with always someone being really nice and giving and these kinds of qualities of authentic, this essence of just almost like godlike. Like you're just so great.
Or
And that's
pure.
actually or pure. Thank you. That is just, it's not true. We're all, human and make mistakes. And me bringing sometimes my authentic self is actually unwelcomed sometimes at a table, right? And I don't know if people, again, I think it's overused. I don't know if it's, it's even sometimes the idea of like, when you say like school or a work environment, like we're like family. Yes and no. Like, you don't want me treating you like I treat my family. Like, I just, like, I say that with such love. Like, you want me coming in and making, like, more objective decisions, not based on emotion and all of these things. And I think, right, you associate sometime being authentic with, like, oh, we're like family or we're this. And I don't think that's always the right thing.
And I think it's a bit of a cop out to
Mhm.
say that you're looking for someone to be authentic, as opposed to I'm looking for someone with the value of, or the behavior that is, or the language that is, because authentic is a nice way to say, show up as who you are, and then I'll judge you later. But I'm also judging you on whether or not you're authentic.
Yeah.
So ultimately, whether or not you're authentic is an outside judgment call, which that's, I don't
Mhm.
know that that's really helpful, right?
Well,
When it,
it's today's world, right? We're
right,
rating what we say. People rate online if someone messes up and they apologize. They're like, they weren't as genuine and authentic for that apology.
right.
So we are by even overusing some of these things, what we're separating ourselves more because it's this idea of I don't think you did that to the quality I thought it should be. And
Yes.
so therefore I'm still Xing you out of the equation. Or these are the things you need to do for me to think that you're more authentic than you really are.
Which I love that you said for some people that's kind and genuine and pure. For
Mhm.
other people, it's harsh and
Yes.
angry and mean. And
Yeah.
that's the authentic thing that they're looking for in a leader.
Yes.
Punitive.
Yes.
And so both are authentic. And
Hmm.
so I think what I was trying to get is like authentic is great, I guess. Maybe is an adverb. Like I would like you to be authentically kind or authentically, whatever, authentically holding people accountable or something as a
Hmm.
leader. But I don't know that authentic or genuine in and of itself can ever be a real meaningful character descriptor to anyone for anything
No, I
because it's
agree with
just a
you.
judgment.
I think it's more observable behavior pieces. Like, for example, did you do what you said you were going to do? Right?
Yes.
And even in that, there's still wiggle room, right?
Hmm.
Circumstances that come into play, in people's lives where someone didn't follow through, as long as it's not a continuous characteristic of where they're constantly not following through. Even then, I think, even then, that's not all of it, right? There are so many things that I'm really off today. I don't know why. Hang on. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's a hard one because
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty
Hmm.
of encouraging women
Hmm.
leaders to be authentic and to be themselves.
Yes.
And to your point, I don't know that that's always safe.
Hmm.
I don't know that that's what always people want.
Hmm.
Because everyone wants something different. And I don't know that it's a helpful thing for me to say that, like the bring your whole self to work thing, if you're not safe to do that there. And instead,
Hate that
I
so much, actually. That whole bring yourself to work thing. And I know that's probably most people would. I know what that means. Like,
right.
if somebody is coming to work and they have, let's just say, pretty terrible boss that is constantly kind of just abusing the system with that person, and then you're telling that person, just lay all your cards down, be vulnerable. You're setting them up for hurt and failure, to be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just something that can be thrown around, to your point, and is sometimes weaponized. And I think it all comes down to maybe instead of authenticity, just a continual reminder to self reflect, to self regulate, to think about your thoughts, to, are you showing up as the person you want to show up right now in this situation? And if not, how can I help you or how can you help yourself? Because just the idea of like, no, be yourself, be genuine and authentic. It's like, I'm not sure. I don't
Well,
know
and
that that's helpful.
no, but and I think we have to reverse it in the sense of a lot of the times I know I'm guilty of what do people need from me right now, right? What do they need to see from me? Um, what is it that I stand for? What is the backdrop of my values? And to know me is to know pretty much what I value. Like I'm pretty like a fortified city in that. But, right, I think a lot of the times in today's world, we're looking for ways to make it look like we're more authentic. And instead of looking for things, and to your point of self-reflecting and saying, what are some of the things that I actually are important to me and are important when I lead other people? And then the other things that pop up for me while I'm doing that that actually isn't a value and it's actually can be hurtful towards people. And you don't always work on a limit, but you can work on something that is a workaround a right because sometimes actually working on things is much harder if it's ingrained, right? If like you have a temper, sometimes like right? It's not always like, I got to get rid of my temper. Well, that's harder, easier said than done. And so maybe it's giving yourself 5 minutes and letting your team know you're still going to get angry, but this is how I'm going to try for it to manifest instead. And that to me is more authentic than someone
Yes.
being really, really like happy all the time and then behind the scenes being like that person or talking poorly or manipulating behind the scenes. So I would rather take that person who potentially works on their anger but authentically says it versus the other side of it.
Yeah. I just, I, I love that you always bring it back to values because I think that that's something we don't talk about enough. We don't actually, I think good leaders reflect on their values and good leaders help organizations reflect on the values of the organization and the core beliefs.
Yeah.
But in practice, in our language, in our day-to-day interactions, that's sometimes the missing piece where decisions aren't tied to values or moves that are made aren't tied to those core beliefs or the parts of the organization that we've all agreed
Hmm.
to together, to tie us back to those things that are collaboratively agreed upon. Instead, it's just like, this is what I think is right, right now, or this is the best move for us. And I'm telling you in all honesty what I think is right. And I'm being honest and vulnerable. And you're right. Like that's not helpful all the time. And it certainly doesn't help build a strong sense of a foundation when everyone's just being themselves, their what they feel like at that moment. If they're tied to actual values and that's reinforced and exhibited through behaviors, then that instills a lot more confidence, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think like when you bring things to the table, right, you can have emotion around them, but the values that are embodied is what should be the authentic thing,
Yes.
right? So I'm having a bad day, but listen, we value honesty. So
Yeah.
the authenticity here is when I'm telling you we value honesty, so I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
But that is not an excuse not to do what we need to do. You
Yeah.
see, I think sometimes it's used as having a bad day, I'm being my authentic self, I can't do this or I can't work on. Nope. Unsubscribe to that. I unsubscribe to that. That is not the way it's supposed to be, right? And I think that's the other part. What am I trying to say? I have difficulty with the authentic word because I think sometimes it's like when people bring that up and saying, I'm just being my authentic self on that, and it's an excuse for poor behavior, or it's an
Yeah.
excuse to treat someone poorly, or it's excuse not to do or follow through on something. And In the workforce, that can't be the case. It just
And
can't.
in a place where we have to coexist with others that we aren't always choosing to
That's
coexist
it.
with. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's it, right? Like you would say maybe the same about your family, but ultimately we do have a lot of choices when it comes to who we hang around with once
Thousand.
we're adults, and so you can choose to be with people in your family or not being. Once you're an adult, like many times you can work to get in that scenario where you can choose. You oftentimes don't have that choice at work. And so I do think there are other norms that we have to bring to the table
Hmm.
because we exist in community
Yeah.
together, hopefully with
Yeah.
a shared goal or purpose. And our behaviors do impact each other.
Yeah. And but what better way to bring that forth is when you do self-reflect on yourself. You see,
Yes.
the first thing that people mostly do in a community at work is where we watch someone else's behavior and think, oh, they shouldn't have said that, or of course they said that, or whatnot, versus thinking, I mean, this is something you've heard me say is you have to ask yourself a little bit of like, how do people receive me?
Well, and I think this is like to come for full circle. I was thinking about our conversation today and how we got to this place of having these, these these conversations. And I met somebody out in the wild that was listening to our podcast. And this person said, I just don't have conversations like that with people. That's not what my conversations are like. And to be real, I don't have these conversations with everyone either. That's why I think it's unique. But we do and have always been people who talk about ideas instead of talking about people. And I think what you just brought up of like being in a community and then, you're analyzing someone else's behavior or you're gossiping about somebody else's, as you always say, the lowest form of connection, right? And a higher form of connection is to think about yourself and think about yourself relative to what's happening with you and connect around ideas and concepts that can support self-improvement, improvement of the organization, improvement of the bigger community. And like, to me, that's a much more productive way for us to engage and interact with each other.
It's a higher level of consciousness where really like when people are working from that arena, that spot, I do think you are better equipped to solve problems, make better decisions, and so on and so forth, and treat each other better. I think when you start to do it in that kind of capacity. So, yeah. Well, this was,
So
yeah.
I, for one, am going to not be using that word authentic or genuine. I don't really use the word genuine that much. That's why, but like, I hear you. I think they're the
I
same.
Yeah, I think they're the same. I really do feel like I've like beat it with a bat and I feel a little bad, but I just have
No, I'm
such
going to have to check myself in the future
I
too,
have an
because
allergic reaction to it. So the
yeah,
end.
yeah, I
But
appreciated it. I needed this because it was
yes.
clarifying for me. So we are going to not just overthink the things we overthink, but your things too. So send us your thoughts, send us your questions, our emails in the show notes. We would love to think through other big ideas that you have on your mind too.
Yeah,
But for
absolutely.
now, we're closing up the tabs, Zvitsa.
Yeah.
We're
Till
going to
next
close up the
time.
tabs. Yeah. Give yourself some grace. We'll see you next time.